Okay, so today we're going to be looking at something a little bit different, a script all about sexual wellness in the bedroom.
Ooh, interesting.
But before you think this is going to be, well, it actually takes a really interesting approach to how sexual wellness can really have an impact on our overall health and happiness.
I think that's so important. And you know what I found really fascinating about this script is how it starts by kind of redefining what sexual wellness even means.
Right.
It goes way beyond just the physical pleasure.
Yeah.
It's about understanding your desires, feeling confident in yourself, and, having healthy connections, whether you're with a partner or exploring things solo.
Okay, that's already making me think differently about this.
Yeah.
And, something that really stood out to me in the script was how much it emphasizes communication.
Oh, absolutely.
As like the foundation for a really great sex life. And it even gives some surprisingly practical tips on having those sometimes awkward conversations with a partner.
Yeah.
For example, it suggests using I statements instead of you statements.
Ugh.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like instead of saying, you never do this, you could say, I really love it when we...
I love that. That's a great example of how the script encourages shifting the focus from blame to shared exploration.
Right.
Right. It's like, using I statements can help create a safer space for both partners to express their needs and desires. And I think ultimately that leads to more intimacy and understanding.
That makes so much sense. I can definitely see how approaching it that way could make a huge difference.
For sure.
But the script doesn't just stop at the communication basics.
Right.
It also dives into some really interesting techniques for deepening intimacy. Have you ever heard of sensate focus?
Ah, yes. Sensate focus is a fantastic technique that the script highlights. It's all about slowing down and really tuning in to the physical sensations of touch without any pressure to reach orgasm.
I love that.
Yeah.
So it's really encouraging couples to explore each other's bodies in a mindful and present way.
Exactly.
Which can lead to a deeper connection and a heightened sense of pleasure.
For sure. It's like taking a magnifying glass to those small moments that we might usually rush through.
Yes. Absolutely. And, that ties into another key point the script makes. It's not always about the destination.
Right.
By shifting the focus from achieving orgasm to simply enjoying the journey of touch and sensation, couples can actually unlock a whole new level of intimacy and pleasure.
It's like savoring every bite of a delicious meal instead of just scarfing it down.
Precisely. And the script even takes us a step further, suggesting that couples experiment with different types of touch and explore various erogenous zones.
Okay, that's where things start to get a little more adventurous, right?
Right.
But the script is really clear that exploration should always be consensual and respectful.
Of course.
It emphasizes that both partners should feel safe and comfortable expressing their boundaries.
Absolutely. Consent is paramount in any sexual encounter, and the script does a fantastic job of emphasizing that communication and respect are the cornerstones of a healthy and fulfilling sexual relationship.
So we've talked a lot about communication and exploration, but the script also doesn't shy away from the more, practical side of things.
Yeah, it gets real.
It gets into some pretty straightforward advice about sexual health.
Which I think is so important because sexual health is often overlooked or treated as a separate issue.
Yeah.
But as the script highlights, it's an integral part of overall well-being.
Absolutely. And it's not just about preventing STIs or unplanned pregnancies, right? The script also talks about things like regular checkups, knowing your own body, and understanding how things like stress and anxiety can impact your sexual well-being.
That's a crucial point. The script acknowledges that our mental and emotional state plays a huge role in our sexual experiences. It even goes so far as to suggest seeking professional help if you're struggling with things like anxiety, low libido, or body image issues.
So it's really advocating for a holistic approach to sexual wellness, mind, body, and emotions all working together.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this script so valuable. It's not just offering quick fixes or superficial advice. It's encouraging a deeper understanding of ourselves and our sexuality.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's interesting how the script approaches the idea of, spicing things up in the bedroom.
Right.
It's not about following some, predetermined list of sexy activities, but more about finding what genuinely excites you and your partner.
Yeah, I think that's such a refreshing perspective.
Yeah.
The script really emphasizes that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to pleasure.
Right.
What might be exciting for one person could be a complete turnoff for another.
Exactly. And I really appreciate how the script encourages couples to kind of get curious and experiment with different fantasies, role-playing scenarios, or even just like trying new positions.
For sure.
It even suggests creating a yes, no, maybe list to explore each other's desires in a safe and playful way.
That's a great technique. It allows both partners to kind of voice their interests and boundaries without feeling pressured or judged.
Totally. And speaking of boundaries, the script doesn't shy away from the importance of setting and respecting them.
Of course.
Not just in the bedroom, but in all aspects of a relationship.
Right. It's really about recognizing that healthy sexuality is rooted in mutual respect, clear communication, and a willingness to prioritize each other's needs and desires.
It's like, even if you're super comfortable with your partner, it's still important to check in and make sure everyone's on the same page.
Absolutely.
But the script also acknowledges that even in the most loving relationships, challenges can arise in the bedroom.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so important to normalize those conversations.
Right.
The script offers some really practical advice on how couples can approach those potentially awkward topics with empathy and understanding.
For example, it suggests using I statements to express concerns without placing blame.
Oh, that's a good one.
Like, instead of saying, "You never initiate sex anymore," you could say, "I have been feeling a little disconnected lately and I miss our physical intimacy."
That's a great example of how a simple shift in language can make a huge difference in how a message is received.
Yeah.
It allows the conversation to start from a place of vulnerability and shared understanding, rather than accusation or defensiveness.
And the script goes even further, suggesting specific techniques for addressing common issues like mismatched libidos, performance anxiety, or even just feeling a bit bored in the bedroom.
One technique it highlights is called bridging. Have you heard of that one?
I'm not sure. Tell me more.
It involves identifying the underlying emotional needs that might be contributing to the sexual issue and finding ways to meet those needs outside of the bedroom.
Okay, I see.
Yeah,
Can you give an example of how that might work?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's say one partner is feeling really stressed and overwhelmed with work, which is impacting their desire for sex.
Okay. Yeah.
Instead of focusing solely on the lack of intimacy, the couple could work together to find ways to reduce that partner's stress levels. Maybe that means helping out with household chores, scheduling more quality time together, or simply offering emotional support and encouragement.
So it's about addressing the root cause rather than just treating the symptom.
Exactly. And, this all circles back to the script's core message about sexual wellness being a holistic journey.
Right.
It's not just about what happens in the bedroom. It's about how we take care of ourselves physically, emotionally, and mentally.
It's about feeling good in our own skin, communicating our needs effectively, and creating relationships that are built on trust, respect, and genuine connection.
And that's a powerful message that extends far beyond the realm of sexuality.
It really does. But I'm curious, the script also talks a lot about challenging societal taboos around sex. What are some of the specific taboos it addresses?
Well, one that comes to mind is the idea that there's a right way to have a sex life.
Okay.
The script challenges this notion, emphasizing that there's no single standard for what's normal or acceptable.
So it's encouraging people to break free from those expectations and define their own version of a fulfilling sexual experience.
Exactly. And that includes embracing our fantasies and desires, even if they fall outside of societal norms.
I can see how that could be really liberating for some people.
It definitely can be. The script also addresses the taboo around aging and sexuality.
Oh, interesting.
It challenges the misconception that sexual desire and pleasure decline with age.
That's such an important message, especially in a culture that often equates youth with beauty and desirability.
Absolutely. And the script encourages people of all ages to embrace their sexuality, to continue exploring their bodies and desires, and to seek help and support if they encounter challenges.
So it's really about creating a more open and accepting conversation around sex, regardless of age, gender, or relationship status.
Precisely. And, that ties into another taboo the script tackles.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that sex should always be spontaneous and effortless.
Oh, I can definitely relate to that pressure. Sometimes it feels like sex is supposed to just magically happen.
Right. But the script encourages a more realistic perspective, acknowledging that sometimes sex requires effort planning and even a bit of scheduling.
That makes me feel so much better.
Yeah.
It's like it's okay to be intentional about creating intimacy, especially when life gets busy.
Exactly. And the script even offers some practical tips for couples who want to prioritize intimacy amidst their hectic schedules. For example, it suggests scheduling regular date nights that are solely focused on connecting with each other, both physically and emotionally.
I love that. It's like putting intimacy on the calendar, just like any other important appointment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is refreshing to hear a script acknowledge that, intimacy isn't always a spontaneous combustion kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like life happens and schedules get crazy, and sometimes you need to be a little more intentional about making time for connection.
Absolutely. And, I think that ties in really well with the script's emphasis on self-care.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about prioritizing intimacy with a partner. It's also about, cultivating a healthy relationship with yourself.
That's such a good point. I feel like we often talk about self-care in terms of bubble baths and face masks, but this script takes like a much broader approach.
Yeah, it really does. It encourages you to explore, all these different aspects of self-care that can actually enhance your sexual well-being.
Mm-hmm.
For example, it talks about the importance of mindfulness, stress management techniques, and even like exploring your own body and sensuality through solo play.
I think that's something that often gets overlooked, the idea that solo exploration can be incredibly beneficial even if you're in a relationship.
It absolutely can. And the script really emphasizes that getting to know your own body and understanding what brings you pleasure is essential for a fulfilling sex life, both solo and with the partner.
It's like you can't really share your pleasure with someone else if you haven't fully discovered it yourself.
Exactly. And the script even suggests keeping a journal.
Oh, interesting.
To kind of track your experiences, explore your fantasies, and identify any patterns or triggers that might be impacting your sexual well-being.
It's like turning inward and becoming your own sexual researcher.
Precisely. And that self-awareness can be incredibly empowering. It allows you to advocate for your needs, communicate your desires more effectively, and ultimately create a sexual experience that really aligns with your values and preferences.
So it's not just about following someone else's script, it's about writing your own.
Exactly. And that's what I think makes this whole deep dive so valuable. It's not about providing, a set of rigid rules or instructions. It's about empowering you to explore your own sexuality, to challenge those societal norms, and to create a more fulfilling and authentic experience for yourself.
I love that. And one thing that really stood out to me throughout this whole script was the emphasis on just breaking down shame and stigma around sex.
Yes, completely agree.
It's like giving everyone permission to just be themselves, to embrace their desires, and to seek help and support when they need it.
It's such a powerful message. And I think, it's so important to remember that we're all on this journey together. There's no shame in asking for help, whether it's from a therapist, a doctor, or, even a trusted friend.
And, even just having these kinds of conversations like we are right now can be a huge step in breaking down those barriers and creating a more open and accepting dialogue around sex.
Absolutely. The more we talk about these things, the less taboo they become. And that can only lead to more understanding, more empathy, and ultimately more joy and pleasure for everyone.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one takeaway you'd like our listener to walk away with?
Here's a thought for you. How can you cultivate more joy and pleasure and connection in your own life? What steps can you take today to really embrace your sexuality and create a more fulfilling and authentic experience? It might be starting a conversation with your partner, exploring a new fantasy, or, even just taking some time for self-care and reflection. Remember, this is your journey, and you have the power to write your own script.
Beautifully said. And until next time, stay curious, stay open, and keep exploring.